If your body is telling you to leave, even though you don't yet have confirmation that that job has been secured, do it. I quit my job as a platform engineer, but I'm not unemployed. I could have been, but I'm not unemployed. I am now a associate product security engineer. We thank God. We thank God. For anyone that hasn't seen my previous video that I think I posted it a while now. I don't even know. It was a couple of years. That was when I first started my role as a platform engineer. So if you haven't had a chance to look at that, go and have a look. But I'll summarize my journey. Essentially, in 2021, I left my job where I was working at a not-for-profit recruitment agency, helping people who were homeless, domestic violence survivors find life-sustaining work. I did that for 6 months. I decided it wasn't for me, and a chance encounter with a volunteer led to me researching and trying to find out what roles I could do in tech. And then I came across a LinkedIn post where there was a boot camp with QA. Yes, it required me to leave my job, but I just decided that it made sense. Like God was calling me to do the boot camp. After completing the 9-week boot camp where I learned DevOps, Python, Linux, SQL, and more, I studied for 5 more months and then I eventually secured my role in 2022 as a platform engineer. 2024, that was the turning point for me. I decided that I no longer enjoyed platform engineering. And there are several reasons for that. The main reason being I worked for a consultancy at the time. If you're a junior, don't do it. I'm telling you, don't work for a consultancy. You are constantly jumping between projects, and that means you're also changing tools, you're changing cloud environments. The issue with that at a junior level is you never get to become an expert and you never really get to see the entire software development lifecycle. As a result, because I'm jumping between these different tools, I couldn't quite grasp how they work together. And also with jumping between different client projects, you're working with different people. So then the skill set changes. You have to get to know these new people, figure out what their strengths and weaknesses are. But at that current moment, I constantly felt like I was weak in all areas. And it was very difficult for me. There were periods in time where you would be on the bench. So for anyone that doesn't know, when you're on the bench, there is no client projects available for you to go on. And very early into my career, I would say in the first year, there was a period where I wasn't on a client project for 5 months. If you're going to have a bunch of juniors and new people stepping into a platform engineering role, you would expect that there is adequate guidance. Within the 3.5 years I was there, I had 3 to 4 managers, and that made it very difficult to kind of form a connection with someone that you can trust. 3 months of me working at the company, my first manager left, who I formed a nice connection with, and then I was assigned a new manager. And with that manager, I just didn't feel like he was adequately guiding me, but I couldn't understand it. I entered this corporate space at the age of 22. So the corporate game and learning how to advocate for yourself and learning how to kind of sell yourself, so you're showing that, oh, these are the skills that I'm developing. I wasn't good at that. And as a result, I kind of just felt like I was left in the dark, and I did struggle for a long while until I realized that I needed to take ownership of my life, of my future, because essentially no one is going to save me. That's why in 2024 I decided that my main focus was going to be on mentorship. I needed, if I wasn't getting the help internally, I was going to outsource that help. Yes, I was able to find someone actually internally to help me that wasn't my manager, and we would do frequent sessions. He would help me with architecture diagrams and building Docker containers and but essentially working on my technical weaknesses. Externally, I joined the Elevate Her, their first ever cohort of mentees, in which I was assigned a mentor, and it was really good to kind of just changed my mindset. I was really doubting my abilities. My confidence just wasn't there. And it was nice to have not only an internal technical mentor, but an external mentor who I could just verbalize all the ways in which I felt inadequate as a platform engineer. After doing that mentorship, that I think it was for 12 weeks, I then got onto the AWS She Builds mentee program, in which I was assigned an AWS mentor. And she was lovely. She entered my life in a period in which everything had just crumbled for me in my professional life. Despite working hard and not being helped or assisted in a way in which my other counterparts who joined the program with me were assisted, it kind of just felt like instead of my manager taking accountability for not advocating for me, for not putting me forward for projects so I can develop these skills, or not taking time to help me build and improve my weaknesses, it became a thing of blame. Blame in which I couldn't quite understand, because to the internal mentor that I had, that manager at the time would be very happy and would tell him how, oh, Kanesha has done, can see the improvement Kanesha is making. And then when that internal mentor left the company, things completely changed. Several weeks after my internal mentor left, I was placed on a performance improvement plan. At first, it was supposed to be informal, then it became slightly more formal. I was assigned a new manager in which there was a conflict of interest. I'm not going to go into that too tough, but essentially, I was placed on that performance improvement plan, which had no clear achievable goals. I ended up having migraines, and it was just a very stressful period in my life. All while that's happening, towards the end of 2024, I got to go on an all expense paid trip, 5-day trip to Vegas, in which I was given a grant with AWS, along with I think 400 people who came from all over the world for this event. And there were several conferences, and I used that conference as the way to ask the questions about how to pivot into security engineering. After encountering as much pain, my confidence being very low, the migraines because of the increased stress and the pressure on me, despite me having such an amazing experience in Vegas and having all of these mentoring opportunities, I realized that it would be wise to not allow people or anyone to make me feel that I am inadequate. Maybe platform engineering in a consultancy isn't for me, but I know all of the skills that I've developed in the last 3.5 years, they won't go to waste. I know I am an amazing engineer, and I know that given the right environment, I can continue to cultivate those skills so that I can be technically confident and also a source of knowledge that people know that I'm able to fix any issues that they have at hand. So after going to reInvent, I devised my 6-month plan that by June 2025, I will secure a role in security engineering. I initially wanted to pivot into cybersecurity as soon as possible, as soon as possible, but I knew the two things that God kept on telling me was that I needed to be patient and I needed to be obedient. Even though I wanted to kind of lessen my timeline or reduce my timeline to 3 months instead of 6 months, I knew that I had to trust in God and trust that by the time I entered into the second quarter of the year, by the time I stepped into June, that I'll be in exactly the position that I desire. What I decided to do is, while I was working as a platform engineer, I would just speak up a bit about my desire to learn or be appointed to projects that were security focused. I was placed onto a project that was heavily focused on PCI DSS, was helping to do logging and monitoring. I was heavily into Terraform and trying to do more intermediate Terraform as a result of everything that I was going through, because I was told that, oh yes, you don't know this, and I was really put down. And so I just said to myself, I'm going to reinforce my confidence. There's no one in this world that can convince me that I don't know this or I don't know that. I do not have a technical background. I entered into this space just by the grace of God, and that was 4 years ago. I knew nothing about DevOps, I knew nothing about Linux or Terraform, and now I do. But the main issue was I was constantly moving between cloud providers and tools, and I was struggling. I was really struggling. So then I also started doing like other courses. So beginning of 2024, did the cybersecurity, I think, foundations with Google. There was also a Cisco networking course that I did, and also AWS has like a skills builder. Skills builder will have resources for their exams. They even have a gamified learning about cloud computing and more. If you look up AWS Educate, that is a whole completely different website, but it's just short form courses that you could do practically in the space of your lunchtime. So they had stuff on there about computing 101, and that went through the different components of how these different resources connect. It also had the AWS security, which is going over network access control lists, it's going over firewalls. I decided to write an article about how to write Terraform modules. I just started doing things to reinforce my technical confidence. And in March, I decided to use the app. It's called Otto. It used to be called We Are the Jungle, where I was just scrolling through and then I came across this product security engineering role. I read through the description, and if I'm completely honest, I was just like, oh, there's no way I can get this job. This seems a bit more senior. It was referring to Kubernetes. And even though I had been working in platform engineering, a lot of the stuff, the client projects that I was doing, they weren't heavily focused on containerization. The role also had a deep focus on application security. I hadn't really had a chance to kind of dive deep into that. So I just felt like, oh, I'm not going to get this job. And then I did the first interview, which is just a simple call with the hiring manager. I did the second interview, which was with the director, who would end up being my manager. And I just remember leaving that interview and I told my mum, I was like, Mum, I really want him to be my manager. He just seems like someone that just really wants to uplift you, to see you win. And I got that all from, I think it was like 30 or 40 minutes, but in the interview, there were certain things that he went into detail about and properly explained about the different tools that they use. And I don't know, I just, in my mind and my body was telling me that this is a place for me. I remember praying about it and saying, God, like, I've been patient, I've been obedient, I've listened. I'm hoping that this is for me. On the day of my technical interview, there was a bunch of things happening at my platform engineering role. I remember one of the engineers that I was working with, it was very difficult to work with, quite frankly. But I just remember, I was just thinking like, God, Please, this is not the day for pipeline to be failing or people to be ignoring messages. Like, I really need to be focused so that I can ace this interview and successfully leave and go into a place in which I no longer feel stagnant, where I'm being cultivated, where I'm being helped, I'm being motivated and actually poured into. I need this. I need this role, and I feel like this role and this company is for me. Did the interview. I felt the interview went well. The two guys that interviewed me were actually members that would be part of my team, and they were going through it. And based on the things that I had learned on that project at the beginning of 2025 to do with PCI DSS, I was able to talk more about policy writing and different rules in order to keep the cloud environment safe. After leaving that interview, I was just like, I kept on telling my mum, like, Mum, I've got the job. Even though I had what there will be one more interview after that. And also, when I spoke to the hiring manager, the first phone call I had, I was told that they're looking for someone a lot more senior. But then as I progressed through the actual interview process, they told me that they had opened up a role for associate level for them to actually help grow someone from the very beginning to become a well qualified security engineer. And I just felt like, God, they're opening up spaces for me. I just felt so elated that after such a heavy period in my life, that things are starting to look better. But I didn't want to get my hopes up in case everything that I prayed for didn't happen at the time that I had imagined. Because sometimes what I'm learning is I don't want to confuse my voice with God's. I don't want to mishear what God is telling me because I want to kind of tweak it to, like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, that's God telling. No, low key, that will be your own voice telling you certain things. But when you actually you sit in your quietness and you just allow God to lead you instead of trying to dictate where you're going, it's scary. It's scary, but it is a very powerful thing. Even when you're going through such a difficult time, my mum always says this, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. And to feel that God has my best interest at heart is amazing. Fast forward, I did the third interview and I kept on feeling like, yes, I've got this, I've got this, I've got this. I told my mum, I've got this. Things were just happening at work. And as I said, I was placed on a second, practically a fourth performance improvement plan. I just felt like regardless, anything I did wouldn't have been enough. When my manager told me on the day that he was leaving that essentially he wouldn't be able to sign off my performance improvement plan and that the next person that was my manager, who I'll be speaking to on the Monday coming, would basically sign it off. And I knew in my heart that they would mark it unsuccessful for whatever reason. And so I started drafting my resignation and I told my mom over the weekend, I told her if that meeting on Monday confirms everything that my body is feeling. Sometimes you can just feel it in your body. It's your nervous system is telling you something is not right. If your body is telling you to leave, even though you don't yet have confirmation that that job has been secured, do it. And it was scary. And I prayed that even over that weekend, I had to get my wisdom tooth removed. So I'm even going through pain. And on that Monday, I'd planned to kind of take the rest of the day off. I just wanted to have that meeting to see how that meeting would go and then take the rest of the day off because I remember joining that meeting and based on the energy alone, it was just kind of like, oh, yeah, I'm sorry that things may not have worked out for you. And I remember confidently saying, I said, it is what it is. I said, it is what it is. And I said, that's fine. And I ended that call. I remember ending that call and calling my mum. I was really distraught. I was very angry because I'm thinking, I know I have put in so much work and I've done so amazingly these last few years. I have done amazingly, and I'm not going to allow this situation to deter me from continuing my journey in tech and with whatever direction I've gone in. I've done panels. I've had multiple opportunities coming my way, and this right here doesn't sway me away from what my ultimate purpose is. After that meeting, calm myself down, and then I sent in my resignation. Oh my goodness, I was really worried because I'm thinking, God, I don't have anything lined up. It took me back to the time in which, when I first joined tech in 2021, I had to leave that part-time role in that recruitment agency to join this bootcamp. They told me I would have to make myself unemployed in order to join the bootcamp. And even though I didn't know anything about any of the topics that I was learning, I did it. And it just felt like a full circle moment of fear. I just felt the fear come back. It just came back 4 years later. But thinking, I love to go on holiday. I love to pamper myself. I love to have a good time. And what is the quality of my life going to look like now that I've left my job, my main source of income? What is that going to look like? My mom was just like, oh, but you can I was just saying, Mom, no, something is telling me, God is telling me it is time. It's time to leave. All the migraines that I had because of the first performance improvement plan. I thought I was actually at the end of 2024, I thought I was going to die from those migraines. I was even prescribed sumatriptan. I remember a day I just physically couldn't move. I was just laid out flat on the bed and I couldn't move. And in that moment where I knew they were going to find some type of reason to mark it as unsuccessful, I did not want to feel that pain I experienced when I had migraines originally in at the end of 2024. I didn't want that again. And I just felt like God is telling me, like, you've been patient, you've been obedient, it's time. Leave it to me, it's time. And I just said to my mum, wouldn't it be nice for me to sign my contract just before I go on holiday? And she was like, yeah, but parents, they're very like, okay, you just got, just ease it, just see. Anyways, I handed in my notice on the 19th of May. And then I was placed onto garden leave. Garden leave is when you're not expected to do any work. You basically it's holiday during your notice period. They don't expect you to be on any client projects or anything. Something I'm trying to get better at is during that period of waiting is being normal and not being kind of like upset or distraught or worrisome about what coulda, woulda, shoulda, what was going to happen. Just kind of allowing and feeling and just experience life. I was going to the gym. I was going on walks in the park. I was doing yoga midday, and that waiting posture of being positive without even knowing whether or not I got the job, it became a lot easier over time. In the past, when I was in GCSEs or doing my A levels, oh my God, those couple of weeks and months between sitting your last exam and then waiting for your results in August, I would just wallow at home. I'd be so anxious and I wouldn't want to go out. But then I come 19th of August, you get your exam results, you want to go out, but summer's done. Summer's over. So I just said to myself, I have a month. I have a month to figure out exactly what it is that I want to do for myself. I'm going to pour back into myself after the last year and a half being so tumultuous, being so heavy, being so it almost cost me my life. Going to pour into myself and love myself a lot more. At the final interview, which was the in-person interview with the director, I already felt like, come on, I'm physically sitting here with the director. We're having a lovely conversation. He was just asking me about, oh, how do I feel about helping towards building and improving the culture of security within the company? What do I want to do? So ultimately, my goal in the future, God willing, is to become an ethical hacker. I want to be a digital superhero. I want to help and find out information and learn about reconnaissance, cyber kill chain, and more. So I was expressing that in that final interview, and it was very lighthearted. I remember leaving there and just being like, God, I know I've got this. This is the fourth interview. I know I have this. So after I had that interview, I went to return my laptop. And then after returning my laptop, I was like, okay, cool. Now that I've got all of that out of the way, I need to go and do my nails. And I was getting my nails done, and then I got a call. So my phone was going. So I answered the phone.
Hello?
And he was like, oh, are you free? I was like, oh, yeah, I'm free now. He was like, oh, what's that music in the background? Like in the nail shop, they love to play their cultural music. So it's all vibey in the background as he's talking to me. And he's like, oh, I just want to tell you. And he was just longing it out. I was just thinking, oh my goodness, you're going to tell me that I haven't got the job. He was like, oh, yeah, I just want to say congratulations. I said, huh? He said, yeah, congratulations, you got the job as a product security engineer. I'm going to send you this, but I just want to confirm. He basically told me what my salary is. I am not going to say my salary on Beyonce's internet, but essentially I doubled my salary. So extremely proud and grateful that I listened. I didn't allow anyone to kind of sway me away from what I knew God had set aside for me. I was on the phone, I was like, oh my God, I'm trying to hold in my tears. And then I ended that call and I cried in the nail shop, trying to hide my face in the nail shop because I don't want them to think like I'm a mad woman. Like, you're getting your feet done and you're crying. My goodness. So I remember just calling my mum and being extremely happy, extremely happy. Fast forward the next day, I received the contract, and by the time I landed in Malta, I signed it. By the time you see this, it will be about 3 months and some change that I've been working as an associate product security engineer. My goal was by June to become a security engineer. So 2 days into that month, I did exactly that. And so, how am I approaching my new role and learning from the previous mistakes? I'm using my free time. See, when I come home from work now, I'm completing, there's this Try Hack Me course, the junior pen tester pathway on Try Hack Me. So, with at least throughout the week, I'm doing about 4 to 6 hours of that course and just building my skills and getting better at using tools like Burp Suite and just growing in my skills and my hands on knowledge. So, I'm currently in the process of building my own little lab, my minimalist lab, where I intend to share a lot of my journey of me learning. First project is going to be on doing reconnaissance on myself using different OSINT tools. But Also, I'm going to be setting up my computer. So dual booting, learning how to have two operating systems. So this is initially Windows, but also adding Kali Linux on top. Do I know how to do that currently? No, but I am excited to see how much I progress. So not only documenting the hands-on projects that I do outside of work, but also adding to my brag document. So I create this brag document where I write the different ways in which I feel like I have grown, and I'll use that document to send to my manager on either a quarterly basis so that he is aware of the skills that I'm building. I've attached a link to my brag document in the description below. It is free. I just want you to use it to start documenting all that you are doing to build your technical confidence. You don't have to be someone technical. You can be someone that just wants to elevate, that wants visibility. And I think that is key. Having a brag document that you are using and that you are bringing into these meetings that you're having with your manager or to anyone when it comes to promotion. Sometimes it's very easy to forget that, oh, at the beginning of the year, I did this course or I did that. That's why this running document is something that will stay with you. Also, networking. I have avoided networking for a few months now. 2024, I was at least trying to go to a networking event once a month, but then, as you know, I just wasn't in the right headspace. But I feel like the time is now. Everything that I set out to do in 2022 when I first had my platform engineering role, I just kind of felt like was sucked away from me. My creativity, my desire to own my voice and to actually use my voice. I just kind of felt like that was squashed because of feeling like an imposter. Like how is it possible for me to go from knowing nothing about tech to becoming a platform engineer in 5 months? And yeah, I just really gave into the imposter syndrome and the voice of my imposter rather than becoming or just allowing myself to learn and make mistakes. So now I'm holding myself accountable and I am doing everything that I set out to do all those years ago. I recently went to an event with WeSIT, which is Women in Cybersecurity, and they had an event at the TikTok head office. And it was really lovely. It was mainly about learning about the different non-technical and technical roles, as well as building your bold vision. So what you see in your future in terms of when it comes to your career, in terms of when it comes to just cyber in general, you as a person. And it was lovely speaking to women at different stages of their career. There was a girl that was doing her master's and she wasn't sure about how to find a job or what she could do to kind of stand out. And I just said to her, there are so many resources online. The main resource, especially if you need to have a better understanding on the direction that you should go in, is there are several roadmaps. I think it's roadmap.sh. And you can make a copy to your GitHub and have this roadmap in which it tells you the different tools that you can learn. And you can actually just tick it off as you go along. And it also has links to different resources that you could have a look at, different courses that you can take. And I remember just telling her that information. Then I spoke to another lady, and she's more into GRC. So that's governance, risk, and compliance. So that's to do with policies, rules, enforcing those rules at a company level. And she was telling me that she has a younger daughter. I think her daughter's at the beginning of her journey in university, and she was constantly just saying to her daughter, "Just you need to figure it out. You need to know exactly what you want to do." And I was saying to her, the one thing that has made me the person that I am is the fact that I have just ebbed and flowed. If there's something that I believe hasn't worked for me, I'm going to find something else that interests me, that excites me. And that's the whole point of being in tech. You have to be able to be flexible. You can't be rigid in any capacity because technology is constantly changing. We have AI coming in. And even though people believe like, oh, AI is going to take our jobs, if you are skilled, if you are staying up to the time, you're learning about prompt engineering, you're learning about the different ways of how to jailbreak an AI and how the risk of having AI affects security, you will never be out of a job. You will never. I've had a squiggly career. I have a psychology degree. While I was doing my psychology degree, I was on a 3-year law program trying to figure it out. It didn't work out for either of those. And then I found a job in recruitment, and then it led me to tech. And this is where I am. So yes, I've gone from platform engineering now to cyber. I don't know where God could take me next. I know definite security is where my heart is content. But you never know where life can take you. Previous steps, the previous roles that you have, further embolden and empower the steps that you continue to take. I remember she left the conversation and said, you know what, that's really changed my mindset, and I'm going to be less hard on my daughter and just allow her to figure it out. That's one of the most amazing things that you can do. And I'm so happy that I had that support from my mum. I already had a backup plan in case I didn't get the product security engineering role. I already knew what I was going to do. You start seeing LinkedIn posts every single day. I know what I was going to do, but I'm so grateful to God that I don't have to go as hard. Like, I'm in an environment where I'm being empowered. I'm going to Black Hat in December. I have certifications that they're willing to pay for. There's different things that I've mentioned to my manager that they are excited to help me do. And going to these networking events recently has just reminded me that doing this, like not only just talking to a camera, talking to people, sharing the knowledge is exactly what I was supposed to do and I need to do. And I acknowledge that for a very long time I've been holding myself back. And one of the most painful things that I feel like you can do is failing to do what you set out to do. And when I know that I haven't gotten up and I'm not recording, or I'm not doing the hands-on learning, and I'm just busy with other things that aren't going to fulfill me, there's a deep sense of guilt, and I don't want to feel guilty anymore. I just want to feel extremely proud and blessed on how far I've come, as not only as an engineer but as a person. So I'm really grateful and I'm extremely excited for this next chapter in my life.